In the sleepy town of Eldridge Hollow, time had a way of bending. The place was surrounded by thick woods that whispered secrets, and many said that the clock towers didn't just tell time, they twisted it. For generations, the people of Eldridge Hollow had known to avoid the amber-lighted Little Doris Café after sunset. It was said that once you stepped through its doors at night, you might end up reliving the same hour over and over, unable to escape. Emily Hawthorne, a graduate student doing research on local folklore, had heard these stories. Most would dismiss them as mere legends. But Emily was drawn in by the allure of the unknown. One night, emboldened by stories from the town elders and driven by a thirst for adventure, she made her way to the café, confident that her rational mind could conquer any superstitions that lingered there. As she entered, the chime of the bell above the door sounded like a warning. The café was small, its walls adorned with a chaotic collection of photographs that hinted at happier times. Soft jazz played from a vintage radio, and the comforting smell of coffee enveloped her. She ordered a slice of cherry pie and settled in a booth by the window, ready to jot down notes for her thesis on local legends. Minutes slipped by unnoticed as she scribbled. Conversations among the few patrons echoed around her, their laughter mixing with the clinking of cutlery. A tall man with a weathered face caught her attention. He sat alone, staring vacantly at a cup of black coffee. He seemed out of place, the only customer who didn't engage with the surroundings. "Why do you stare so long?" Emily asked, curious despite herself. He turned, eyes wide, as if waking from a deep sleep. "I was just thinking," he responded, his voice low and gravelly. "You'll regret stepping into this place at night, you know." Quote, "Regret? You mean because of the stories?" Emily laughed lightly. "I'm not one to put faith in fairy tales." Quote, he eyed her with an intensity that made her skin prickle. "It's not a fairy tale. Once you're in, the clock rewinds, and you'll find yourself back here. Time loses meaning. Hours feel like seconds, and seconds stretch into eternity." Quote, "What are you talking about?" She scoffed, trying to dismiss the idea. But an unsettling chill slipped down her spine. Just then, the café's door swung open. A gust of wind rushed in, and a shadowy figure entered. It was the woman from the photographs on the wall, her hair down to her waist, offering a warm smile while a knowing look settled behind her eyes. "Welcome back," she greeted everyone as if they were old friends. Emily blinked, suddenly gripped by an overwhelming sense of déjà vu. She shook her head, claiming it was mere imagination. After all, she had just arrived. The clock on the wall chimed 1. Panic washed over her as a wave of darkness engulfed the café. Time twisted, and everything around her blurred. Suddenly, she was back at the table, her pie untouched, the buzzing conversations fading away. The tall man still sat across from her, mumbling the same warning, while the curly-haired woman flickered like a candle flame. "Now you're stuck," the man said, leaning closer. "This is your hour." Quote, "What do you mean?" Emily's heart raced. "I didn't do anything." But the man just stared pityingly, like a scientist assessing a specimen. As the clock approached 1 again, dread filled Emily. She had experienced this moment just moments ago, trapped in an endless loop without any means to escape. She looked into the faces of the other patrons, noticing their similar expressions of torment and despair as they surfed through this horrific cycle of time. This was her reality now. Every tick of the clock echoed a bit louder, casting her deeper into madness. Each reset offered her the same identical choices, the same words spoken, the same resilient hour of agony. Days morphed into weeks, weeks into months. Desperation peppered the nearly perfect illusion of normalcy the café created, yet all felt eerily familiar. Days dragged on, shadows grew longer, and even the briefest interactions began to suffocate her. Each reset robbed her of hope, until those fleeting moments of freedom morphed into twisted dreams, a distorted sense of living amidst a fever of loss and regret by the woman in the photographs, who would merely watch and smile. It wasn't until the first light of dawn broke down the café's walls that Emily realized a chilling truth. The tall man with the graveside warning was long gone. She hadn't seen him at all after that fateful hour. And the woman? Just a decaying remnant of her psyche, tethering her to this haunted hour. As the clocks struck 1 yet again, Emily shrieked, "Let me go." The cafe shuddered, the laughter echoing unnaturally in the stillness. But this time, something within her shifted. With all her being, she sought to break free. I refuse this loop. I will not be part of your game. The atmosphere thickened, the tables trembling, and the dark haze swirling around her, but somehow, her heart burned brighter. The ground shook violently, and in that moment of raw power and defiance, Emily felt the cafe splinter, reality crackled. Light engulfed her. As she found herself awakening amidst the woods, the cafe no longer in her sight. But even as she breathed the fresh air, she could hear the faint, persistent chime of a coffee shop bell, forever calling her back. The sun rose in Eldridge Hollow, but the shadows knew it was only a matter of time before they whispered her name again, pulling her into a hell curved by time.